Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Henry Harris. Such an honor to be here with you today. And it's such an honor to have, I can now say, Dr. Vanessa Brooks on the show today. She wrote a brand new book. Let's see if I can put it. It's called The Secret is Out When Faith Fails, the Role of the Black Church. I read the book twice. It's a phenomenal book, a great book. I recommend everyone to order that book whenever they get a chance. And she's here today to expound and talk about that book. She's an author, she's a wife, educational consultant, pastor, religious trauma expert. Dear God. Founder of Wellness Care 360. She also holds, I think this just recently it happened. She holds a doctor of education in mental health and human services, which I find amazing, by the way, because as I followed you all these years, it seemed like you've always had a passion for mental health and those who are suffering in that area. Uh, she
Absolutely.
specializes she specializes in health and behavior health management, and also holds a master's degree in pastoral counseling. Her name is Dr. Vanessa Brooks. Thank you so much, Dr. Vanessa Brooks, for being on the show today.
Well, thank you, Brother Henry, for having me. I really appreciate it. I count this an honor and a privilege.
Thank you so much. My first question is: I like the title of your book. What was your motivation? What inspired you to write this book? Like overall,
So, the book is really born out of my personal desire to see the corporate collective body of Christ, the church, heal, but it's also born out of my personal experiences with what I call a crisis of faith and mental health issues within my own life. And so the secret is out, is about the secret that I was keeping um, as an evangelical apostolic Christian pastor. I was dealing with a lot of mental health battles, depression, anxiety, and then it matriculated into some theological crises. And I had to hold that secret for years because I could not share that with anybody. Who are you going to tell, right? And so that's what the main topic, the secret is out, is about me finally finding the courage and the strength to articulate and put language to what I was feeling internally for so many years, and what I now know that millions of other people also feel. So that's what this book comes from. It's a book of healing. Um, it's a book to say to anyone who's struggling with their faith or their mental wellness that it's okay, and that they don't have to keep the secret anymore.
yeah, that's powerful. You think of a secret, you think of something like, telling your friends something like, "Hey, I'm gonna tell you a secret," but make sure the purpose is for it not to get out or to
Right.
tell anybody else. So that's
Hmm.
when I purchased the book, because every time I don't buy everybody's books, as I'm sure you don't either. But the title of your book and the picture, everything just kind of like captivates you, like it pulls you in.
Hmm.
And being an author myself, I think that's important. So I don't know who put this together, but they did a really fantastic job. But what stood out to
You
me the most was
truly
not
put it
just the
together.
part. Who did?
I did all of the cover design.
Oh wow, you did a great job. It's very creative too. I mean,
Thank you.
I love all of it, but the part that really stood out to me is in bold letters. The secret is out, which leads to the next question.
Hmm.
What did you mean by that? The secret's out. Like what secret are you referring to?
So again, I was a pastor. For those that may not know my story, I was a pastor for 14 years, and loved it so much. However, the weight of pastoring is very difficult and burdensome to bear. Okay. And so you are exposing yourself not just to your own life's challenges, but you're also continuously exposing yourself to the challenges and the problems and the burdens of your parishioners. And so I had developed something called compassion fatigue and vicarious trauma, which I really want more people to understand, which means you're taking on the traumas of other people, but those traumas remain unresolved within you, right? You're listening to stories of sicknesses and deaths and, you're doing all these things, pastoral counseling. And so you're taking all of that in, and 95% of pastors never get any self-care for themselves. So I ended up with vicarious trauma and compassion fatigue, where I was just too exhausted physically and mentally to care about my church members anymore because I had taken on so much of their life. That escalated into depression, where I was literally fighting to get out of my bed to get to the church to preach every week. It escalated into nightmares and anxiety, my hair falling out, hives breaking out all over my body, high blood pressure, so physiological symptoms of stress. But I couldn't tell anybody. So that's the spin on the word secret, because it was a secret to nobody except it was a secret only to me. So this book is about me finally letting that secret out, that, hey, this is what I experienced as a pastor. I did all of the things that pastors are supposed to do while suffering in silence. And it's also me letting everybody else's secret out, the millions of people, and specifically the thousands of people who've talked to me personally about their journeys as well with depression and suicide ideations while pastoring or while being a believer. So this book is about giving everybody the courage to tell their story so that it's no longer a secret. Because when you're the only person having to keep your own secret, it causes so much physiological and mental damage. And so this book is giving people permission to talk about their stories, just like we're doing today.
That's great and that's profound. You talk about the role of the Black church. What I'm referring to now is like past tense. What was your role in the Black church in the past? And also, it's like a two-part question. What is your role in the Black church today after your evolution?
So again, I was a pastor for 14 years. So I was what you call a church planter. My husband and I planted our church from scratch. We started in our apartment in 2006, and we matriculated into having a space. So I was a pastor, but I was also an apostle. For those that may not know what that is, I was helping other pastors plant their churches and overseeing their churches. So I was a leader. I was a leader in the church. I was also a traveling evangelist. So I was preaching this country from East Coast to West Coast, teaching, preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ around this country. So I played a pivotal role as a leader. Now that I've evolved, I don't know. I don't know that I have a role in the church technically, but what I do, I am a consultant to churches who are looking for the work that I do. So I serve now as a church consultant, but I'm also an observer. I am that person because I'm out of the church. It gives me the opportunity to be neutral and unbiased so that when I am providing consulting services to church leaders, I can provide them with academic scholarship. I can provide them with evidence-based solutions and coaching solutions to help them resolve internal problems. So that's my role now. And the rare occurrences of people actually ask me to come preach, I will still come preach. That's not happening a whole lot lately, though.
What audience are you trying to reach with this book? Is it for the secular world? Is it specifically for the Black church? Is it for anyone? Who's this book? What is your target audience with this book?
That's a good question. So, I did my dissertation on mental health in the African American evangelical church. So the book is really born out of my dissertation research. So primarily my target audience is the Black church, and that would include clergy, pastoral leaders, as well as the church members. So there's a section in the book for both clergy and for congregants, but it's for people who are, and it's also for mental health providers, because, and I don't know how far you want to go with this, but there's a gap between African Americans seeking professional mental health and living with unresolved mental health issues. We don't go to therapy like other people groups do, which is really what this research is about. African Americans struggle in silence with mental health disorders more than any other people group. Suicide ideations for Black men is the third leading cause of death is suicide. African American women struggle with suicide ideations and depression more than any other people group. We have the numbers are escalating in the African American community, and so what Black people tend to do is go to the church because we don't feel safe going to mental health providers oftentimes because there is a lot of things that I could say about the mental health arena that needs to be deconstructed as well. So the problem that I found was that if you have African Americans who are dealing with depression, suicide ideations, schizophrenia, anxiety, but they're not on medication and they're still trying to get up and go to work. They're still trying to take care of their kids, but in our culture, we also have a phobia about mental health issues. So what they do is go to church. They go to church and they want the pastor to help them. The problem is over 70% of evangelical pastors, Black pastors, are not qualified to help them in terms of professional evidence-based interventions. They give them the Bible, they give them prayer, they give them scripture, and those things are good too. There is research on that, but those things alone don't necessarily solve the lasting effects of mental health issues. So again, I focus on the Black church for that reason. And we don't have, when you think about institutionally, African Americans don't have any other institutions that we own. So the Black church is it. And so since the Black church is the only institution that African Americans can control, it needs to be a safe place. It needs to be a healthy place. It needs to be a place where the leaders are trained and know how to provide those services. And so that's why I'm focusing on the Black church. But I want to say real fast, Caucasian white people buy this book too. White scholars bring me onto their platforms all the time because they're very interested in this work too. So the book is open to anybody of any race. But yes, I did target the Black church for those specific reasons.
The next question is, and you don't have to give away everything, but
Okay.
can you give us a couple? And I only say not give away everything because if we give away too much, sometimes that kind of discourages people to get the book. It's almost like a
Right.
teaser. It's almost like a teaser, like
hmm
I'll give you this much, but now if you want the whole
Go buy the
thing,
book.
go, go get the book. So can you give us at least a highlight or two of what can we expect from reading your book?
Yeah, it's several chapters in there. And so, the main message behind the book is a couple of things. One, that it is okay to have doubt when your faith is concerned. Doubt doesn't have to be the enemy of faith. Doubt and questions about your faith is actually an opportunity for growth. And so that's one of the strongest messages in this book. Another strong message is that we normalize mental health because in evangelical communities, mental health is demonized
Mm-hmm.
from the pulpit to the door. And so it creates a situation where we don't feel safe seeking the help. So this book normalizes conversation around mental health issues. And the book is about ways that African Americans specifically can offer culturally sensitive interventions for Black Christians, because again, and I am a mental health professional as well. I'm a counselor, and so I know that the mental health programs that are created, unfortunately, they're all created by white people for white people. And so again, a lot of Black people don't feel connected to the professional mental health services. So this book outlines some evidence-based ways that Black clergy can integrate culturally sensitive interventions for Black people who are experiencing depression. So things like drumming and music, because those things are really important in the Black culture. Those are actually evidence-based practices that can be used to comfort us when we're dealing with depression. In addition to praying the traditional evangelical way, I talk about integrating like meditations and indigenous practices like herbal medicines to help treat a lot of the anxiety and depression symptoms, because we now know that there is evidence-based research out there that says that these things can also help. So the book outlines like step by step things that churches can actually offer their church members, because if they don't want to go get therapy, this is like a great alternative. because I don't want people suffering. So this book, I want to get this message out really, really strong, Henry. This book is not an enemy to the church. It is not an enemy to pastors. I will give it to pastors for free. That's how much I believe in the book, because it actually outlines, there's a chapter where I discuss self-care strategies for clergy. And then there's a section where I discuss self-care strategies for the church members, because they have different needs. In the book, I outline like step-by-step processes that churches leaders can teach their congregations to use until they are feeling safe enough to go and get counseling. So it's kind of like counseling in this book too. So it's just a healing book. That's what this book is. And so I just don't want people to see this as, an attack against faith or an attack against the Black church. My mama loved the Black church, and I dedicated this book to my mama. God rest her soul. Today is her 21st death anniversary. You can't make this up, and you didn't even know that.
No.
I dedicated my dissertation to my mama. I am a product of the Black church, so I would never do anything to hurt it. But sometimes, because we've been a little bit, a little bit indoctrinated, we feel a little bit of discomfort when people critique. But my theory is that in order to make something stronger and better and healthier, it has to go through a critique. So the book is a mixture of critique and solutions.
Mm-hmm. What is the breaking point though? How can these pastors, especially the Black pastors, can open up to the resources and information that you're sharing? I'm sure a lot of them are watching right now, and they're like, you know what? She's right. This resonates with me. But like you said, if they have this ideology that mental health is a demon, all these things that they come up with,
Mm-hmm.
what can bring them to that point where they're like to open up to that? Because not I don't know too many Black churches that have mental health, such as
No,
yourself, mental health experts or anything like that. They almost demonize it in some instances, not all of them, but a majority of them that I know.
in most. In fact, my dissertation research unpacked that. I used
Hmm.
6 evangelical Black pastors in my research study. And so you asked a powerful question. I'm going to talk real fast because I know our time is limited. Maybe you can bring me back and we can talk about it in more detail. But one of the
Hmm.
things I outlined in my dissertation, because that was what I sat with for 3 years doing the dissertation work, is like, how do I get this information into the hands of Black churches? Because I've been researching this for 5 years at an academic level, and I was so excited because I used to cry because I thought if I had this information that I'm finding in my research, if I had this in 2018, I probably wouldn't have closed my church, right? If I had somebody to explain to me what I was feeling, I would have probably still been pastoring. So that's the question, is how do we get this information in the hands of pastors? And the first step is, I got a 6-step theory that I created in my research. I won't go into all that today. But the first step that I discovered was, first, pastors have got to go through a self-care process. That's the first step. All the other steps that I've created in my program for pastors for the church is not going to work until we get pastors stabilized. So they need self-care as well. That's why I put some of those self-care strategies in my book. So they need mental wellness as well. They need to be educated. So one of the things I talk about is the importance of like what we call psychoeducation, but a faith-based psychoeducation, where we explain psychology through the lens of faith. I did that in my research study, where I used the Bible to walk my 6 study participants through all the scriptures that support mental health, that take the demonization of mental health away. So what has to happen is, I need pastors to allow themselves to go through their own self-care journey, their own healing journey, which is going to include a lot of faith-based educational processes, where somebody like me, who is able to sit with them and take the Bible and show them in the scripture the truth about how God feels about our mental well-being, because God cares about our total self, and that includes our mind. There's over 150 scriptures about the mind. Okay. The word soul is where we get the word psychology from. And so we have to educate pastors, because unfortunately we've been taught wrong. We've been mistaught. and there's a lot of fear embedded into the neurological pathways of Black Christians in general. So a lot of the work that I do is also neuroplasticity work, Henry, where we have to literally create some new neurological pathways by giving these clergy new information. Now, I can't make them want to do that. And that's the kicker. No matter how much information I have, there has to be a desire. And so my prayer to God all this time, and will continue to be, is that there's a desire for help. And once a pastor decides, I want help, I'm going to be here for them.
Wow, that's amazing. So, you say the Black church. Many may want to know what brought you to that conclusion. Why the Black church?
So, first of all, I always try to explain what I mean by the Black church, because I didn't know that African American Christians didn't understand that there is that the Black church is an actual thing.
Hmm.
When I first started posting my stuff on the internet, people would slam me because I would say the Black church. I got
Yeah,
to be honest, white people and Black people, they would call me
yeah,
racist. It's just one church. Why are you saying that? And I'm
that,
like, okay,
yeah.
so y'all don't get it.
That's what I was thinking. They'll
So
say
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. And so remember, y'all, I'm an academic, I'm a scholar. So a lot of when I'm talking, not trying to say I'm better than anybody, but I've evolved out of a lot of the religious language that I used to use. Because I know in the religious world, we just say that there is the body of Christ, but I'm a researcher. And so
Mhm.
when I say Black church, I'm talking about through the lens of academics. So the Black church is birthed out of slavery, y'all. Okay. Initially, the slave owners forced Black slaves to worship in the church with them and their families. The Black slaves, then the enslaved Black people began to riot and they began to fight back. And they said, no, we want our own faith system. We want our own place to worship. They would go down into the woods and the swamp and they'd have their own church services. And so over time, after the emancipation of slavery, the Black church became the name of the Black institution. And it was
Mhm.
called the Black church because it was Black people's way to find agency, to find their efficacy, to find their power in saying, we have our own institution, our own place that we can worship now. And so that's why I refer to it as the Black church. So it's not to segregate us, it's not a racial slur. I'm referring to the academic name for um, Protestant churches that have predominantly Black congregations and Black leaders. That's what the Black church is. I singled them out again because we don't have any other institutions. I love all people, y'all. So please don't think, not that I can even be racist, but please hear my heart. I am not racist. I love all people. Again, I have white students, I have white mentees, I have white friends. But that does not change the fact that this country in America where I live, it is rooted in a lot of slavery still today, and racism. It's cultural and it's systemic, and white supremacy is such a stronghold that most people don't realize that that's what we're dealing with. So Black people as a collective, we don't own anything else institutionally, corporately. The Black church is what we own. It's the only institution that we have control of. So I had to single out the Black church because where else am I going to send, 300,000 Black Christians to? Where are we going to go? So the Black church plays a critical role in helping Black people heal because we don't have anywhere else to go that's not going to be influenced by colonization in this country. So that's why I single out the Black church. Also, when you're doing a research, when you're getting a doctorate degree, for those that don't understand research, they make you find a target audience. You can't speak in generalized terms. You gotta narrow it down. So that's the third reason why I specified the Black church. But again, it is such a powerful institution. And I just want the Black church to know that you are a powerful institution. And if Black leaders were to harness all of this knowledge and information and this healing, we could revolutionize our country. Because if we can get more Black people, feeling well mentally, if we could get more Black people feeling well emotionally, not having to rely on drugs, not having to rely on maladaptive religious coping, not having to rely on, being prayed for all the time. If we could raise the level of our efficacy in the Black community, my God, we could see so much change. And like you
Hmm.
have a daughter. You got a beautiful Black daughter. I know she's multicultural, but she's Black. I got
Hmm.
Black grandchildren. I got Black children. I'm not going to be here forever. Neither are you. What are
Hmm.
we leaving for our Black children?
Hmm.
So we need to be able to introduce them to their Black culture unapologetically, because we're forced to always live in whiteness. So that's the other reason why I focus on the Black church. So y'all hear my heart. It's nothing racial about this book. In fact, when you read this book, you really are not even going to be able to tell that I'm talking to Black people once you start actually reading it, because it's just talking to people. So I
Um,
hope you your question, Henry.
well, yeah, you answered my question. Thank you
Okay.
for doing that. You elaborated on that in excellence, actually. So,
Okay, great.
what do you want? My last question is, what do you want your audience or the audience to learn? Like after they order your book, is there a takeaway that they
So
can
many
pull away
takeaways.
from your book?
So many takeaways. One, um, it's okay to let your secret out. It's okay to share your story. It's okay to share your experiences. Your emotions and your experiences are valid. I want people to walk away after reading my book with their heads held up high. I want people to be alleviated from the shame and the guilt that they're carrying. I want people to get the mental health, interventions and treatments that they need. That it's okay. I've been diagnosed with depression, anxiety, um, prescribed medication for it. And I did all that while still getting a doctorate degree, right? So I just want people to know that there is nothing wrong with you. This book does not desire to pathologize anybody. It's an empowerment book. I want people to know that it's okay to ask questions about their faith, that um, God is not troubled by our questions about our faith.
Hmm.
It's okay to ask questions about the scripture, about the Bible, and it's okay to transcend. One of the things I loved about Bishop Carlton Pearson was that he really helped me to feel okay with transcending where I was in my walk. It's okay to grow. It's okay to change. I've had to change my faith. I was almost going to become an atheist if I had not gone through this process of asking questions and doubting and wrestling with God and reading other books and researching the history of my faith and researching the history of Christianity and, looking at all of the darkness historically around Christianity. If I had not done those things, I would have just walked away and said, I'm an atheist.
Hmm.
Okay. And so the takeaway is, if the church will give people permission to go on this journey, we have a better chance of saving people. But if we keep making people feel the shame and the guilt, they're going to keep suffering in silence and they're going to harm themselves. And I don't want us to have to deal with that. So the takeaway is, sometimes faith fails. Sometimes we're disappointed with God. That's the first sentence I wrote in the book. What do you do when you are disappointed with God? I got disappointed with God, Henry.
Hmm.
Um, but I want people to know that that does not define who you are. My faith crisis does not define who Vanessa is. It's just an experience in my journey. Okay, and that's what I want people to walk away with. To don't let the faith crisis, don't let the mental health challenges, don't let that stuff define you. It's just a part of who you are, and you can move through that and come out on the other side with a greater understanding and capacity for empathy and compassion and love and resilience. And that's what I want for all of us.
Wow, what a powerful and outstanding interview! You're such a beautiful person. I love how intellectual you are and all the accomplishments that you've made. And
Thank you, Henry.
told we wish you the best in all your endeavors and on your path towards success and in success in reaching out to the Black church and the community. at large. Thank you so much. I admire you. I honor you.
Oh,
I honor who you are and what you have contributed to the world. And I've learned quite a bit from you as well. And I want to encourage everyone that's watching right now. I believe it's Lulu. I think it's lulu.com. You type
mm-hmm.
in The Secret is Out When Faith Fails, Dr. Vanessa R. Brooks. Put that in there, and that should um, show you how to get the book that way. Also, for more additional information about Dr. Vanessa R. Brooks, you can visit www.wellnesscare360.com. www.wellnesscare360.com. I'm sure she got amazing resources and things that'll help you in whatever capacity um, you may need help. And she ain't someone that just looked up a YouTube video. She's a scholar. She knows what she's talking about. As we talked about earlier, she's done her homework. So, Dr. Vanessa, thank you so much for your book. I really hope that it's beneficial to so many people that read it.
Thank you so much, Henry, for having me. And thank you for all the great work you're doing as well. I appreciate you.